Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. We are here and we're going to talk about the Oklahoma City Thunder winning the 2025 NBA title. We're going to talk about the disappointment of Game 7, which was Tyrese Haliburton's injury that seemingly looks very significant. And finally, we got a massive trade to start Sunday. Kevin Durant is now a member of the Houston Rockets, so we will talk about that. But first, let's hit the music.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Way downtown.
Bang! Bang! What's this going to be? Wow! Are you kidding me?
Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. But if you watch the tape, what you will see completely orchestrated this game. Bryce, it was a busy Sunday
in the
NBA.
Very busy Sunday.
Keegan Bradley won the Travelers. I know you're excited about that. Keegan Bradley, golf.
What is Travelers?
PGA Tour. They play this Travelers Championship in
I know
New England.
Masters, the PGA Championship, British Open. I don't know. Sometimes I get confused because there's tennis ones also. Hey, speaking of, my wife was watching this today, and then as I'm watching Game 7 of the NBA Finals, I say, man, Haliburton I'm pretty sure he just tore his Achilles. And my wife goes, who? And by the end of the conversation, I found out my wife could not name a single player playing on Sunday night. I have failed as an NBA content creator that my wife can't name a single Oklahoma City Thunder, Indiana Pacer.
My wife now knows Tyrese Haliburton is the guy that did the choke symbol.
Okay.
So anytime that I say Haliburton, she'll go, oh yeah, this guy. And it's pretty great. Okay. So let's talk about the game.
Yep.
Oklahoma City wins 103-91. They are your NBA champions. And I think we do need to so this is a hard one, right? Because on some level we are let down because of the Haliburton injury.
Yeah.
Right. And we will talk about that. And I feel really bummed about it. Honestly, like that just absolutely sucked. And to have to continue to relive it because ESPN just continued to replay it over and over and over again.
I feel like
I don't know what's going on
why?
with ESPN's production side. Like their choices in terms of the studio show with like Stephen A and Perkins and those guys, and then to continue to replay the injury, like I'm just like out on that entire experience.
Sam, it took one time. They could show it once, and you could see it on the one replay, and they didn't need to show it again. It was very interesting. They continued to show it over and over and over.
You can literally see the Achilles go.
Yeah, you can see it.
Like the foot like falls flat to the ground. Like it is insane that they continued to replay that over and over and over again. I'm good. I don't need that in my life. But like we are bummed about that, but I do think that we need to bring like a requisite level of excitement for the Oklahoma City Thunder because they deserve it.
Absolutely.
They are the NBA champions. They've been the best team throughout the entirety of this NBA season. They won 68 games this year. They were the one team really across the playoffs. They got a significant home court advantage, right? Shout out to those fans. Shout out to Loud City. Shout out to everything going on. Shout out to Andrew Schlecht. Shout out Alex Spears. Shout out everything going on in Oklahoma City. Let's talk about the game. We'll talk about what was going on before Haliburton gets hurt and then after Haliburton gets hurt. So before Haliburton gets hurt, he's on fire. He's rolling. He's drilled 3 threes. Things look like, oh man, this dude is stepping up in a big way in this moment, as he's done throughout the playoffs, right? Like Haliburton's been there every single moment of the playoffs. And I thought we were in for a classic. I thought we were in for an absolute classic as soon as this game started to get rolling. And then the injury. And it just completely takes the air out of the building. It completely takes the air out of the entirety of everything, from people watching to, I feel like players on the court, honestly, it took them all until like halftime. It felt like to kind of adjust to the new norm a little bit. Indiana did a good job of rallying around it a little bit, but man, Bryce, it was It was truly horrendous.
It took OKC a little while too. And
Totally.
I was trying to think like what my mindset would be. And obviously I've never played on that stage. I've played on decent stages before, but nothing that's 100th of game 7 of the NBA finals, obviously. So these guys are wired differently than me, but initially it's like, okay, you feel bad as a human and as a basketball player to see someone on the other team, especially when you know how serious it is and the ramifications of that, which we'll either talk about later or on our Pacers offseason preview, which will be coming the next day or so. And then you go through I think there's an immediate letdown, like you said, right? Like there's a different energy and all of that as you get back into it. And then as the Pacers are pushing you, all of a sudden the pressure falls on you because not only is this game 7 of the finals at home, you're the favorite, but what if you lose without Tyrese Haliburton on the other side? Like that just amplifies. I was just waiting for the takes if they lost that game of biggest collapse or biggest choke job or what, like all, can you imagine what the headlines would have been if they lose game 7 at home without Haliburton? And I will say this, he looked locked in. We talk all the time about his mindset, his mentality, all of that. It looked like it was going to be one of those games. And as you mentioned, we'll talk about SGA's mindset in a little bit as well, because I loved some of his decision-making tonight as a distributor. Totally. I think we were in store for a great performance and great showdown. And that's what I don't want to get lost, that like this sucks for Tyrese Haliburton, the person. Like selfishly, we were always like, as fans, we just got cheated out of a tremendous game 7. I don't want it to get lost that, can you imagine what Tyrese is feeling right now, let alone his teammates and everybody a part of that organization? So I want to make sure the focus stays there on what he just lost and gave up by that injury as well.
Yes, I can imagine it because ESPN showed us 45 times during the broadcast, unfortunately. So I think I have a pretty good feeling, unfortunately.
He knew right away. Like that's what was heartbreaking to me was, I didn't even have to see the replay. You can tell by players' reactions when it's real and when it's not. And whenever a player is saying, I felt it, and, doing the like hit the ground multiple times, you know that they know. And it was tough to see that look on Haliburton's face that he knew that it was over for tonight. And that's,
I think he like literally said to the trainer, I did it. Yeah. Like he knew as soon as it happened. Because again, we got 45 close-ups on his face, so we got to read his lips, which is great. Yeah. So, all right, done taking shots at the broadcast for being a disaster the entire NBA Finals, unfortunately. And it's not like anything against Richard Jefferson and Doris Burke. I actually enjoy them. I know that they get some shit. I think those guys are pretty good. And Doris, I think, is actually someone I really enjoy listening to because she's really smart. It has nothing to do with Mike Breen. It has nothing to do with people calling the games or the halftime show is a bit of a different beast in this regard. It is like the production side that I think needs to continue to lift here for ESPN as much as anything. Okay, now to the game. I loved what Indiana did in terms of ball pressure as soon as Haliburton went out. And that's how they end up taking the lead going into halftime. Their ball pressure was immaculate. They were fantastic on the defensive end. Really, I would argue throughout everything but a 12 to 14 minute stretch there in like a couple minutes into the third quarter into the beginning of the third quarter. I thought the Indiana's defense was outstanding. I thought they were so good. And yet it was just too much. Like, you and I can break down the X's and O's, and we'll talk about some of it, I think, a little bit. It's just that Indiana had no way to create offense effectively outside of TJ McConnell. There was a stretch in the third quarter and fourth quarter where they went 10 minutes where TJ McConnell was the only player to score for the Indiana Pacers. That is insane. And it's a credit to Oklahoma City's suffocating defense as much as anything. But I feel like it's just hard to lift that energy for 41 minutes. They were without Haliburton after a 7-game series, after 2 months of the playoffs. Look, I'm not saying that like these guys aren't in incredible shape, but you're going against other dudes that are in amazing shape too, and that are bringing the energy and effort and are the best defensive team we've probably seen in 20 years. It is genuinely just really hard, I think, for Indiana to bring the defensive effort that they brought while also being able to do what they need to do on offense to be able to create shots.
Yeah, and I mean, I think even with McConnell, who obviously went on the stretch and all of that, McConnell also had 7 turnovers tonight. And I think that I'm not trying to take shots at TJ McConnell. It's just it speaks to what he was up against and what they were up against once the injury happened, because they were going to rely on, like, if I put it in my notes, like Benedict Mathurin is going to have a ridiculous scoring game. Like he's going to have to come out, and he did. He had 24. I mean, Mathurin had 24 and 13. That will be a double-double that I don't know that people will remember, but it just wasn't enough. And again, I think the McConnell stat line is kind of the part that sells it to me is, yes, 16 points. Yes, he had 12 straight or whatever it was. But in those 12 minutes, he was the only one to score. And for the game, he had 7 turnovers because he just had such offensive load on him that was more than what he should be. We've talked about this. He's awesome. Yeah. He's an energy giver, but there are limitations with what he can give you. And we saw those tonight in a situation where they had no other choice but to go to him and see if it happened.
Yeah, and look, shout out Pittsburgh, shout out Chartiers Valley, our icon, TJ McConnell. 16 points on 13 shots. He does have the 7 turnovers, but 6 rebounds, 3 assists. Yep. I mean, in the third quarter, he was the only guy that had it going.
Only one. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was just massive. Like truly, they went almost an entire quarter where TJ was the only guy that scored for the team.
I don't want to criticize Rick Carlisle too much because I think he's been incredible. I was a little surprised there wasn't an emphasis to run the offense through Siakam. Like I felt like, and maybe if I go back and rewatch, I'll be like, okay, OKC just locked in and took him away. But we talk about this team being versatile offensively, right? And with Tyrese out, your pace kind of goes away. I just thought maybe you play the possession game, which they got destroyed. We'll talk about that. Maybe you try to slow it down in the second half. You're not the better team. You're not the more talented team with your best player out, and just see if you can go Siakam isolations and kind of generate offense that way. I don't know. I'd have to rewatch and see, but I found myself wanting more Siakam in the second half, and I don't feel like we got it.
So what I think happened, if you made me bet on what happened here.
Sure.
And look, like the stats don't really back this up because they only took 28 threes, but I would bet you that Rick tried to play like a variance game a little bit where it's like, okay, we're going to have to try and find either driving kicks or we're going to have to find shots at the rim with TJ. But what Oklahoma City did was instead of like collapsing down into the lane on TJ drives, they just switched.
Yeah.
And they said, okay, we're comfortable with you driving against TJ. We're going to stay home against all of the shooters. And that's kind of why he was able to score effectively or as effectively as he was. It's because he did get mismatches and they were basically banking on being able to outscore them on the offensive end, thinking that guys like Chet, guys like Hartenstein, who had a massive stretch in the third quarter, Hartenstein, guys like Caruso, and then obviously the pressure he's getting from Dort and from Kaysen and those guys, that they'll just wear it down a little bit. And ultimately, I think he did wear him down going into the fourth quarter. I think it's worth stopping talking about Indiana for a second here, given that they did not win, and just moving toward Oklahoma City. They won this game the way that they won games all season, is the reality.
Yeah.
They held Indiana to 43 points in the second half. They held Indiana to 91 points. And again, Haliburton was out. We get it. But this was a spectacular Chet Holmgren game.
Mm-hmm.
I think it might be the best game he's played in the playoffs. He was unbelievable, I thought. And we'll get to Shea. Shea won it, finals MVP. It was extremely deserved. But my goodness, Chet tonight. Switching him on defense at times, his rim protection, his rotations across the back line. 18 points, 8 rebounds on 6 of 8 from the floor, 5 blocks, was always available on the interior to help out his teammates. I thought did a really good job controlling the defensive glass along with Isaiah Hartenstein as well, which is something that they generally have not done an amazing job of in the playoffs at all times. There have been moments where they've been good. It hasn't always been sweet. I thought Chet was masterful with his positioning tonight. I thought he was absolutely elite.
Yeah, no, he was really, really good. And you mentioned the offensive efficiency, which was important because if there was like one end of the floor throughout the playoffs and in these finals that was a little bit of a question or whatever, that was it with Chet. And so it wasn't a crazy scoring game, but I mean, I feel like anytime it'd be interesting to go and look, especially in the playoffs, what this team's record was with Shea, Dub, and Chet whenever they all scored a certain points
Sure.
in a game. You know what I mean? I don't know what the threshold would be. You'd have to play with it a little bit, but like tonight, each of them score at least 18. Chet 18, Dub 20, and obviously Shea almost got to 30. I just wonder what their record is whenever you see that offensive firepower, I guess, from all three, because we know what they're going to bring defensively, and it starts with Chet. And I thought he was absolutely incredible. And you mentioned the switchability. I think the off-ball defense, the rotations and rim protection with that as well, just kind of those players are special, Sam. We talk about it all the time. You know, like we really like this guy on the ball, but he's ball watchy off the ball. Or this guy does a great job rotating, but he struggles to stay in front. Chet gives you that versatility and that wide range of defensive impact, which is it's just special. It truly is.
Cason Wallace, Lou Dort, Alex Caruso,
Yeah.
and J-Dub, by the way, too. We'll talk about J-Dub in like a different section here, but like those three guys particularly, Cason has the 2 backcourt steals and an additional 1 in the first half. Caruso was a monster on defense in this game. Again, you know, he always is. He's so good on that end. The off-ball defense, the rotations, and obviously the very physical on-ball defense. Lou Dort, between the offensive rebounding, the physical defense at the point of attack, all of it. I think all three of those guys were fantastic tonight. J-Dub was a monster in the third quarter. Like, I think that the entire run starts kind of with J-Dub on defense. He forces that turnover. He doesn't get a steal for it, I don't think, but he forces that turnover at the sideline on like a dribble handoff where it goes out of bounds, and then Oklahoma City goes down, drills a 3. And then I think 2 possessions later, it gets the steal on the strip on a drive into the interior, goes out, gets out in transition, drives, gets drilled by, I think it was Mathurin or Neesmith, I can't remember, and somehow makes that like double clutch shot at the basket.
Yeah, Mathurin.
That one really felt it. Here's the biggest reason to me that Oklahoma City won this game, right? Oklahoma City wins this game because without Tyrese Haliburton, all of the ability to stop big avalanche runs goes out the window for Indiana. The thing that they've avoided throughout this series is Oklahoma City getting out in transition and getting like, okay, we drill a 3, we drill a 3, we get a layup at the rim, we drill a 3. Oh shit, it's an 11-0 run in 90 seconds, right? Tonight, because Haliburton wasn't there, Indiana turns the ball over 21 times, especially in the second half. That was the big issue. The second half was a massive, massive problem in terms of turning the ball over. And then, because Haliburton isn't there to slow the game down and not turn the ball over, or whenever, you know, you get one transition opportunity where you get a bucket, you have 1 3 where you get a bucket, there's nobody to calm the pace down. Because TJ McConnell plays at a very frenetic pace, and God love him for it. He's the best. Again, shout out our Pittsburgh icon, TJ McConnell. But he plays at that frenetic pace, and it kind of plays into that avalanche ability that Oklahoma City has.
Yeah.
Right. And those are the things you have to avoid. Those are the non-negotiables you have to avoid against Oklahoma City. And Oklahoma City did an amazing job of recognizing the moment in the second half in understanding, okay, let's go, let's do this, let's get turnovers, let's turn turnovers into offense very quickly. Let's not slow the game down. Let's speed it up and say, let's get to work and go.
Yeah, 32 points tonight. Indiana conceded off turnovers. I mean, and we talked about it going back to before the series.
Yep.
We've talked about it multiple games throughout the series. We've talked about it in games where Indiana had high turnover numbers, but didn't have the coinciding high points conceded off those turnovers because either they were dead ball turnovers or OKC wasn't able to convert or they had good transition defense. Tonight, OKC, like you said, especially in the second half, they were able to turn those turnovers into points. And like you said, it seemed like Indiana was holding on, like they were holding off the Avalanche. They're holding off the Avalanche. They were doing just enough. And then eventually OKC broke through and you kind of
the dam's always going to break.
Yeah. You knew it was going to eventually. I just have so much respect for this Pacers team. I thought they might be able to hold on to it and they just weren't. And, you know, again, the possession game, OKC took 17 more shots tonight, including 2 more free throws. And most of that was due to turnovers because the offensive rebound numbers were very similar. And so that is the key stat of the game. And I'm sure there's gonna be all sorts of stuff to come out. We're still going to talk about Dub. We're still going to talk about SGA. But ultimately, when you get almost 20 more attempts at the rim, in whatever capacity, whether 2s, 3s, free throws, whatever, the likelihood of you winning the game is exponential.
Yeah, I mean, just to finish on J-Dub too, I mean, clearly playing with an injury, like the ball doesn't look as tight in his handle as it has, like the wrist injury is like a thing, it feels like, but just a spectacular game on both ends. He continues to bring it every single night on both ends of the court. I mean, this dude is something special to me. Yeah. I mean, I've been talking about this for a while, that I've thought that he is this era's Jimmy Butler. And that's just what it feels like to me every time I watch him, that he's going to be this era's Jimmy Butler. He's already got the title that Jimmy, unfortunately, was unable to win. But that ability to get to his mid-range jumper, that ability to finish at the rim, obviously he takes 7 threes tonight as opposed to like the minimal number of threes that somebody like Jimmy does. But then you throw in the fact that he's one of the best on-ball defenders in the league. He's a monster off-ball defender due to his length. He is always capable of getting into those passing lanes, getting into those digging potential outcomes where, you know, if somebody drives, he's always there with his length. He has great hand-eye coordination. I mean, look, I feel like I've been saying this for like a year and a half, but it's just that's what I want. That's what I see when I see J-Dub. I see this era's Jimmy Butler, basically.
Yeah, I mean, he's incredible with what he's able to do on both ends of the floor. And I have to admit, I found myself going into this game thinking about the narratives coming out. And OKC's, I think, you always use the term delta, so I'm going to start using that. I felt like the delta on the narrative around OKC was extreme, especially compared to Indiana. And I do sometimes wish we could live in other worlds where if OKC lost this game and Dub had a bad game, I wonder what the narratives would have been coming out, because sometimes I think they're unfair. And so I don't know when I say I'm glad, like I root for almost all players as long as they're good people, and J-Dub seems like a good person. So I'm glad for him that he was able to kind of show, I don't want to say his worth, because I think we both know what he was worth and like his impact and his value. I think people are finally seeing how good he is on this biggest stage and understanding that two-way impact that he brings.
I mean, I'm just going to say it, like J-Dub coming into tonight in the finals alone was averaging 24, 5 and 4, shooting 45, 26, 83, but getting to the line 9 times a game in the finals. He was a monster at getting to the line and consistently being like efficient that way, even if the 3-point shot wasn't falling. We need to stop pretending like this dude isn't elite. And I mean, look, I still think that Jokic has the crown as best player in the league, but if you want to make a case for Shea, I'll hear it out. Honestly, like I will listen to it at this point, because we are now talking about Shea Gilgeous-Alexander being the fourth player to win an MVP, a scoring title, and an NBA title in the same season. Kareem, MJ, and Shaquille.
Hold on. One second. How many times did MJ do it?
Yeah, he did it 3 times.
4 times. Karithika,
okay.
she had to correct herself. Shout out. But just for the young folk out there, MJ did it 4 times.
Unbelievable. But if you wanna make the case for Shea,
sure,
I'm for it. I'm not gonna argue against you if that's your case. I still think I might take Jokic, but especially given how tight that series was in a talent disparity that I think is very real between Oklahoma City and Denver. But it is very fair to claim, if you're an Oklahoma City fan or if you're a Canada basketball fan or whoever, that Shea has the crown at this point, because he was immaculate tonight.
Yeah.
29 points, 12 assists. I'm so glad that you brought up the passing. He was so good at making the right decisions at the right time.
Can I say one thing real quick though? Please stop yelling at people when they highlight his passing. He had bad passing games in these finals.
Totally.
That's a little frustrating to me when people are like, oh, where are all the haters about Shea's passing now? Like, let's go back and watch game, what was it? 5? No, 4. Let's go back and watch game 4 together and game 6 together and tell me that it wasn't fair to come out of those going, man, I wish he would have made better decisions. Now, to his credit, he was incredible tonight. Sam, I will never forget this play. And I don't know that, like, it's not going to be flashy. It's not going to show up on SportsCenter tomorrow. He drives middle of the lane. And what does Nembhard do all game, all series to him? Bumps him. Shea times it up perfectly. After all of these games and all of these possessions, he knows exactly when Nembhard's going to bump him. He spins off, leaves his feet, help comes from the weak side, and in the air kicks it out to J-Dub, and it's the one that kind of rattled up to the backboard and in. Yeah. And it was just like the basketball gods were watching that one. They're like, yeah, this one's got to go in, even if it was a little off. And it was just like, to me, that's what MVPs are made of. Like, when I think of MVP, that's what I think of, because it's like he processed the whole series. And like, to the technical aspect of, I know when Nembhard is going to try to put his chest on me and bump me, and I'm going to use that to my advantage. And then making a passing read that we had questioned in a couple games leading up to game 7. It's a play. That will be my Shea MVP of the 24-25 season. That will be my memory of Shea.
Yeah, look, like, even so, game 4 was a mess passing wise. I thought game 6 was bad passing wise for Shea. Like, it wasn't just that there was like one of these games.
Yeah.
Like, I thought game 1 was like not amazing for Shea passing wise, to be completely honest with you. So I think that it is very, very fair for people to bring up the idea of Shea having issues as a passer. We brought it up throughout the series. It's a real thing for him, where if you time the doubles in the right way, he can get it. But I think that what always goes underrated about Shea is that he is like a real worker, and that he is somebody that works toward trying to problem solve. We've seen it throughout series, throughout his career. We've seen it throughout, games, really, even throughout his career, that he does generally try to problem solve and figure it out. I'm really interested now to see where his career goes. Like, he's now automatically the best player on a title team, right? With an MVP, a scoring title, and a, finals MVP all in 1 year. I mean, I think he could retire now and be a Hall of Famer, if I'm being completely honest. Like, this is where we're at. Like, once you do all 3 of those things, you're a 3-time first team all NBA player. Like, I don't care what happens next. He's got to go in my opinion. So, and look, like, this team could have multiple of them. Like, we're still early enough in J-Dub and Chet's careers to where that ceiling absolutely exists for them. And I am so excited to watch this team grow, because look, we're going to do their offseason preview. We're going to record it tomorrow. It's going to go out on Tuesday. I mean, it's not like there's a whole lot here to talk about.
There's
Like-
not. It's going to be fun because it's like I have a couple questions and they're like very nitpicky because that's where this team is at. I mean, what this team did net rating wise, wins wise, all of that. I know what's going to happen, and I've already seen it, and I already don't like it. People are already discounting it, and I just don't like it. I don't subscribe to that. If you're going to do that with this championship, then go back to every single championship and make sure you highlight every single injury and every single whatever that happened for every single title team. If we want to do that, cool, but then let's do it. If not, then let's say they won a title and give them their due diligence, or their due credit. He was, I mean, the numbers, you brought up the numbers earlier for Dub. I had him here for Shea as well. He averaged 30 for the entire finals on 44-24, like didn't even shoot the three well, 90 from the free throw line, and then almost, a little over 4.5 rebounds, a little over 5.5 assists, and 3.5 stocks per game. He made some impactful defensive plays tonight. I believe both in the first half. He had some rim protection. So just an incredible performance from him the entire finals. And I thought he capped it off with game 7, doing the scoring and I know what I want to say too. I love that they went to just some traditional ball screen stuff, some pick and roll stuff tonight. And I thought it worked really well. I think sometimes NBA coaches and teams outsmart themselves. It's like, no, just spam pick and roll from the middle of the floor, from a cleared outside, whatever. And I thought they got some really good stuff out of that. Caruso got like 4 wide open threes just off pick and roll and him throwing the skip to the weak side wing. So I like that OKC, leaned into just some traditional ball screen stuff in this game.
2 final kind of topics I want to bring up. So let's talk about the bummer one first. So, Jayton Justice brings up here, shout out for the super chat as well, by the way. 3 Achilles injuries in the playoffs between Dame, Jason Tatum, now seemingly Tyrese Haliburton. His father, I think, confirmed it. We saw it on camera, but let's at least wait for the confirmation officially. Is there anything players and teams should do in the future to avoid this? Yeah, I think it's don't play if you have a calf injury.
Yeah,
is kind of the thing, honestly, now. Because I don't know if you saw this online, but like Gilbert Arenas, I guess, talked to Jason Tatum and Dame I guess after they had their surgeries. And he said that both of them mentioned that they had some calf stiffness or tightness or whatever as well. So
wasn't KD battling a calf and then it ended up in Achilles too with his?
I can't remember off the top of my head. It
okay.
Sounds right, but like I'm not gonna pretend.
Yeah. Okay.
What I will say though is I think that we're going to see teams just get way more conservative about this.
Sure.
Now, in this case, I think that you would have had to have literally knocked out Haliburton with drugs prior to the game to make him not play in this game, or to like make it so that he wouldn't have sat like and been like on the bench with them and like been ready to go. Like you would have had to have locked him in a hotel room, doped up on like all sorts of like drugs to keep him away from the arena, because otherwise he would have found his way into this gym and found his way into uniform and tried to check himself in. It's game 7 of the finals. Like that's the reality. This one, I think, was somewhat avoidable. The others, and I'm not sitting here saying that like this is an epidemic. I do have some questions for sure. I wonder if we see teams get more conservative about how they play with these things moving forward. I mean, honestly, I'm all for like a study of sorts as well. Like, let's figure out like if there's something where guys are wearing lower top shoes and like it's not giving enough support to the back end of their of their Achilles and anything like that, right? And if we need to start doing that. All of these injuries, by the way, they all happen the same way. They happen on like the negative step, where like you're really like trying to like
pushing
plant
off
and drive off, right? And like you straighten your leg out. Like you see like all of them, if you watch them all in a loop, which God, why would you? But like they all happen in the same kind of way to me. So maybe I don't think that move is avoidable on an NBA court.
Correct.
It's just not. Like, but maybe there's something with, like, obviously people are going to bring up like load management and workload and everything like that. I'm all for shortening the season. I just don't think it's like a realistic thing that's going to happen. So I'm trying to think of other things. The other thing I will say here is, like, I mean, these dudes just play a lot of games on a hardwood from the time that they are 13 until they are 19 before they even get to the NBA. Like, I reducing the AAU circuit and timeline would make a whole lot of sense to me too, in all honesty.
Yeah. That's probably a different podcast that is a longer conversation. As I have kids growing into this world, I have stronger and stronger thoughts on how some of this youth stuff is handled. And probably not the podcast for it, but I'm with you. It would be interesting to know. I also want to say I have a hard time with Haliburton's decision, or I'm fine with whatever he does, as long as he knew what the risks were. I think we should be slow to say what should or should not have happened or what decision should have been made. Like, that's just, it's game 7 of the NBA finals. And so I don't know. It's such a hard situation to be. But I'm with you. I think we all know if this was the regular season, he wouldn't have played, and this probably would have been avoided. So.
Yeah. Like, I mean, look, here's the other thing too. I mean, this is the third one for the Pacers this year. Isaiah Jackson and James Wiseman.
Yeah.
Too. I mean, I would want to know a little bit more about that. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just saying, like, I would like to understand that a little bit more. It could be totally fluky. In no way do I want to blame anybody on Indiana's training staff for this. I just would maybe want to understand, like, how fluky this entire thing was. I mean, you can look across the board, right? Like, there have just been significantly more Achilles injuries than what we've seen previously. I mean, Jalen Moore, draft prospect this year for Oklahoma, literally just tore his Achilles in a draft workout. Like, it's
weird,
overworked,
Sam, because I feel like in 2025 there's probably more injury prevention in these guys' routines and workouts and regimens than ever before, but yet we're still getting stuff like this. And so it would, a study needs to happen, because it does feel like the Achilles specifically is becoming more and more prevalent.
Yeah. And shout out to R Jonesy for the super chat, to Granger, PG, Depot, now Hallie, even Andrew Luck. Yeah, that's a good call too. I'm devastated right now for him too. He put in so much work. Been sitting in the dark with an unlit smoke for like an hour. Thank God we have our pick back. I mean, Bryce, that's the other thing too.
Yeah.
I mean, look, like, I don't love talking about, team building and player movement in situations like this, but the Pacers over the weekend did a deal with the New Orleans Pelicans to acquire their own draft pick back in 2026 for number 23 overall this year. I mean, obviously the Pelicans never could have known. I didn't like this deal at the time for the Pelicans. I understand why you make it. You want to move the timeline up on getting your players. You're a new front office, everything like that. But, like, there's just not a big difference between number 23 and number 29. Like, if the Pacers, are the number 1 seed in the East again next year, but if they suffer injuries and things like that, I mean, there's a whole lot of difference between number 23 and number 14 or whatever. And now we're in a spot where the Pacers did an amazing job getting their pick back, and we'll see what it leads to. I mean, I feel truly like I don't enjoy bringing this up right now, but it's an important thing that happened over the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, their offseason preview got a lot more interesting than what it should be, like, than what we hoped it would be, right? Like, we were hoping that offseason preview would be the Miles Turner discussion and a few things here and there, and now it's I don't know if that it's quite Boston Celtics-y, but all of a sudden the conversation is very different now, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And that pick is a big part of it now, because owning that and having the rights to it definitely changes. It gives you a little bit more option in terms of what path you may or may not want to take next season. So, it's like, I'm with you. It sucks to already be transitioning to that. The thing is that the calendar moves on, Sam. I mean, that's the thing.
We're 9 days from Miles Turner being a free agent. It's insane.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, we can not want to do this and turn the chapter and give the Thunder their flowers and feel bad for Haliburton. But at the end of the day, we got to get out 2 offseason previews, because the NBA draft starts on Wednesday and then on Thursday, and then a few days later, free agency, and the cycle continues to move. And so
we are literally like under 70 hours from the NBA draft.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. Okay. Final thing I wanted to bring up. We do this at the end of every year, right? And I don't think this will be a super long discussion, because we've had this discussion kind of throughout the playoffs as it is, particularly when both of these teams made the finals. But does the way that this finals occurred, and does the way that this series occurred, does Oklahoma City winning, do the Pacers contending in the way that they did, change anything in your mind about team building moving forward?
My 2 biggest takeaways are something we've talked about multiple times, which is the top-down cohesion approach to roster building and coaching and the type of players and all of that. Figure out your system, figure out what you want, hire a coach that will coach the players that way, and then identify players that will play that way. The second thing, I think, to win in the playoffs, you have to have players that can play physically, defensively, and can take physicality offensively. And I mean, I don't think this is rocket science or some new idea, but I just watch this and I'm like, if you cannot take contact as an offensive player, you can't be on this floor and be effective. And if defensively you either aren't willing or can't play physically, then you can't have the impact that other defenders can. And so when scouting, identifying whatever players, I think I would look for that if and when it was time for my organization to win at the highest level.
So two things for me. The first one goes into conjunction kind of with what you're saying. I'm at the point where if I'm building a team, I just want a whole bunch of dogs.
Sure.
Like, I want a bunch of dudes that are super tough, that are super physical, that are aggressive, that don't like shy away from the moment. And look, you're drafting these kids at 19 years old half the time. You don't know what human beings they're going to grow into. There are people that, were probably, players that scouts had questions about in this regard when they were 19, that have grown into being absolute dogs and tough and physical and willing to do this in this way, right? Able to do this in this way. You aren't a finished person at 19, but that's the reality of who I want on my team at this point.
Yep.
I want physical dudes. I want guys that are tough, and I want guys that can obviously dribble, pass, and shoot. Like dribble, pass, shoot, process, toughness. That's what I want. Hard to find it all. Hard to find it all in a single player.
Yeah.
But I'll say this, like if I might update the top 100 again one final time before this. I might like bump I have Sion James in the top 40 already, but like somebody like Sion James, man, I kind of just buy into that a little bit more right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if someone takes him at like 29, 30, trading in, or just takes him, like if the Celtics take him at 28, because they're like, we might move Drew Holiday or something. I'm going to be like, yeah, okay. I get that. I understand that. That makes sense to me. Elijah Martin is another one, right? Like, I get it. I'm for it. It makes sense. Someone brought up Will Richard in the Will Richard at Florida kind of fits that a little bit to me. I don't know. Like he's not more than a 2-way because he's a 6'3", wing who's a questionable shooter on some level, but I would probably want him on a 2-way. I probably have him too low if I'm being honest. He's one that I won't move up because I don't want to have to write a draft guide profile in the next 72 hours. But the second piece of it for me is it kind of feeds into that. I think we have, I don't want to say underrated ball pressure for a little bit defensively, but I think that it's much more essential than what people give it credit for. I think for a while there was this idea that the NBA's best players are just going to get theirs no matter what, right? And that's what it is. But man, this series with Nembhard playing as well as he did, Neesmith throughout the playoffs, obviously all the Oklahoma City guys like Lou Dort and Caruso and Cason Wallace and everything. The Pacers improved their defense in such a significant way throughout the course of the season, largely because they just went the route of, we are going to pressure the shit out of the ball, right? There are other reasons, like Siakam took a big step forward on defense and this, that, and the other thing, right? Like they figured out some things schematically. We can point to other things, but ball pressure to me, point of attack defense, that's a big one to me right now. And again, it goes to the Sion Jameses, the Elijah Martins, these dudes that really, really get after it on that end. I mean, you have to be able to shoot. It's why I'm not going to move Jemai Meshack up the board anymore than I already have him, even though I already have him in the top 60, because Jemai is like an absolute dog on defense and might be like one of the 20 best defenders on planet Earth right now, but he can't offense in a way that really worries me. But man, I want guys that are physical, like you said. I want guys that can really defend at the point of attack. And when the moment gets heavy and it gets hard, that's what I'm looking for.
I think one thing, just to build off of that a little bit, we've talked about this throughout the season. I would just say perimeter defenders in general are more valuable than what people give them credit for. I think gone are the days of our all defense should be all centers because they're the most impactful. And maybe they're still, I don't know, maybe they still need to be your best defender or whatever, but the point of attack defense matters, the ground coverage, the rotations, the scrambles. Here's the other thing. You know what doesn't matter is a switch big if you don't have guards that can hold up their end of the switch. That's what makes OKC so impactful, is those guys will fight whenever they're getting posted up and either, get a steal or work around or, whatever. And so I think those perimeter defenders in all ways that they can impact the game are starting to be more valued and recognized. And I think that is a shift from, you just need this dominant center to anchor your defense and you'll be okay. And that's just not the case.
Yeah, no, I agree. You just look around the league too, by the way. How did Houston take a big leap this year? Defense, physical defense, right? I think the Clippers took a big leap this year.
Sure.
Beyond what people expected, maybe, because they were really good on defense with guys like Chris Dunn at the point of attack, right? Yep. Indiana took a huge leap this year defensively because they really started to pressure the ball, get aggressive, get physical. Orlando still went 500 despite the fact that Paulo Banchero played 46 games, Franz Wagner played 60 games, Jalen Suggs played 35 games. They still won 41 games because of the defense. And by the way, that team behind you,
yep.
How do you think they won?
Yeah, I watched it.
Improved defense across the perimeter.
Yep.
So it's a huge thing for me right now, across the league. And, look, I have a number of things that I care about, right? When it comes to draft prospects, I want shooting, I want processing, I want dribble pass shoot, I want bigger dudes. But if I'm on the team side, if I was making picks, I can just about guarantee you that I would not be really doing anything in regard to the draft if the guy I thought couldn't dribble, pass, shoot, process, defend. Maybe you take out one of those things, sure, right? If there's just not perfect, there aren't perfect prospects. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But those are the guys I want at the end of the day.
Sure.
And you don't, so Derek Queen's another guy, right? Derek Queen's kind of a dog. That dude kind of is an ass kicker, right? And I wonder if he just might make it work because he's so big and so physical, right? And again, like I've been saying this throughout the process, it's why I'm not wildly high on Jeremiah Fears, right?
Sure.
Like, I don't really see the defensive potential there. That's why I'm like a little bit lower than the internet on Jace Richardson, right? Like Jace fights, he's just small, right? So, yeah, I don't know. That's where my mind goes as I was watching these things.
Sure.
Anything else on the NBA Finals, the NBA champion, Oklahoma City Thunder, Bryce?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I don't want to spoil. We'll have 45 minutes on their off season if we can get 45 minutes out of it. And I'm sure as part of that, we will
Oklahoma City's might be like 20.
Yeah, true. But as part of that, we will recap what the season was and what it meant and what they are moving forward and all of that. So I think we can save a little bit of that for Tuesday.
Yep. Shout out to our friends over at Trade Coffee. Whether you're gearing up for back-to-back meetings, shuttling kids back and forth through activities, or tackling an endless to-do list, your morning sets the tone for it all. That's why it starts with the perfect cup of coffee crafted just for you. Enter Trade Coffee. Trade is the #1 United States coffee destination, bringing you fresh coffee from over 50 of the country's top roasters. Trade's experts have taste tested thousands of coffees to curate over 450 amazing roasts. Whether you're new to coffee or know your favorites, they'll handpick the perfect coffee just for you. Even cold brew for those hot summer days. Just take their quiz and in under a minute, they'll match you with your perfect coffee. If that first bag isn't quite right, Trade's going to replace it for free until they nail it. Trade's prices are on par with grocery store brands, but the quality is just next level. That's why it's worth going to Trade. And you're going to support local roasters in the process. It's a win-win for everybody involved. Right now, Trade is exclusively offering our listeners 50% off your 1-month trial at drinktrade.com/game. That's drinktrade, TRADE.com/game for 50% off your 1-month trial. Drinktrade.com/game. Bryce, well, my wife and I were out. I shared this with you. Like, my wife and I were looking at going to auction to try and get a house. We didn't get the house, right? But we went to a coffee shop after, and my goodness, man, I had an amazing cup of coffee. It was so good. It was very clearly like locally, roasted, and clearly like the beans that they brought in were just incredibly, incredibly high quality. It makes such a difference in the coffee that you drink. Trade is one of my favorite sponsors that we have. So shout out to Trade. Go to drinktrade.com/game. Okay. Bryce, the next thing we have to talk about here. Kevin Durant is a member of the Houston Rockets.
Yep.
Let's see here. Do we have an exact deal? Can I just do it off the top of my head? It is Jalen Green,
yep,
Dylan Brooks, number 10, and 5 second-round picks.
Got it.
For Kevin Durant. It's a deal that, look, you and I have been saying this entire time that it's just not a deal that's going to bring back as much as people think.
Yep.
It's the reality. It was never going to be a situation where Kevin Durant was going to get like this massive haul in a trade. I think Phoenix might have expected that early on, but this deal kind of says all that you need to know about what the offers were.
Yeah.
Like Toronto, I think this got reported over the weekend, but I've been told like Toronto was very hesitant. And I told you this last week at some point, but like Toronto was very hesitant, was my read, to offer Jakob Poeltl in a deal. Minnesota, like I get the impression that they like weren't all that interested in making a real offer unless he wanted to go play there. And it seemed like Kevin Durant was not wildly interested in going to play there based off of reporting from The Athletic, everything like that. So you take those two offers off of the table and you are left with the 3 teams that theoretically made offers. Now there are reports that Miami, I'm confused by the reports that Miami like didn't want to offer like any of Jaquez, Jovic, and number 20. That's wasn't really what my read was, but I got the impression that like it wasn't a massive offer from Miami, I think is the reality. And then on the San Antonio side, look, like we recorded the San Antonio offseason preview. I kind of was very strong in that like San Antonio was not going to do this. And I kind of made GMAC edit some of it out just because I was worried that the market was going to come back so far that San Antonio might be able to like get in the mix on it a little bit more than what I expected. But I don't think San Antonio was ever all that interested in this one. So that leaves Houston. And I think this is a terrible deal for Phoenix. I'm not going to lie to you. But that's because I'm lower on Jalen Green than most people.
Yeah,
I mean, Bryce, what was your reaction when you saw this?
I mean, this is the exact deal we've talked about, so it didn't surprise me.
I think we talked about, I want to be just like completely transparent. The deal that I talked about personally was something very similar to this. It was Jalen Green, Jock Londale, Aaron Holiday, and then you wait until August to actually like do the deal.
Yeah.
Where the number 10 pick would count toward salary matching. But same concept, to be clear, was Jalen Green in number 10. That was my impression on what they were offering the whole way.
Like I realize Dillon Brooks is like still a quality NBA role player and all of that. And in Phoenix, if they want to be win now, which I guess they are because they have Devin Booker, like he's an important, ultimately to me, it's the young piece, Jalen Green, and the draft pick, right? And I guess 5 second-round picks because I mean, shoot, 5 second-round picks got you into the back end of the first round last year for OKC. So that's not nothing. I don't know that you can say those are that they equate to a first-round pick, but they're not nothing. So I wasn't surprised by the value. And while I agree that, like, for Phoenix, I'm not excited about this return, I also have a hard time judging Phoenix too much other than I think you could say, like, if Jakob Poeltl was on the table in a Toronto deal, that maybe they valued the wrong things, valuing a young Jalen Green that's not on his rookie scale deal anymore and the number 10 pick. Like, I think if you're going to crush Phoenix, I think that's where people should crush Phoenix is they went for a young upside guy who's not on a rookie scale deal and, a number 10 pick, as opposed to potentially if guys were on the table, and I don't know, but guys that could have been on the table that were established vets that come in and help you win. I don't know at what level, but help you win next year. So maybe this is right. Maybe you take a swing at 10, you take a swing at Jalen Green and you go for the upside. Maybe that is the right play. It's just, I'm with you. I don't love the swing on Jalen Green, and I hate the Jalen Green, Devin Booker fit together on top of it. Like, I don't love that either. And
for what it's worth, John Gambadaro, who I think I'm going on the radio with tomorrow, he mentioned this idea that they are keeping Jalen Green. It seems
so it's not, they're not gonna, okay. Yeah.
And to be clear, like, it seems very obvious that he is somewhat connected with Phoenix, like in their front office. Like, it feels like he's, got some real info there and insight there. So I think they're keeping Jalen Green. Like, my immediate reaction was, okay, maybe they can try and flip Jalen Green.
Yeah, sure.
In some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. I don't think Gambo would go like as strong as he did saying they're keeping Jalen Green. Like, he even say that like Phoenix like had him put that out there, right? Like, say he is just like going full, put out what the team wants you to put out, right? And I don't get that impression like fully from him, but whatever, right? I don't think you can play it as strongly as he did unless they are planning to keep him, is my read.
Sam, this roster is effing hilarious.
It's a wild roster right now.
Bradley Beal, shooting guard. Devin Booker, shooting guard. Jalen Green, shooting guard. Grayson Allen, shooting guard. Like, those are four of your five best players.
Royce O'Neal realistically is like the size of a shooting guard. Like, he's not a big dude, right? He's like 6'4" probably.
It's amazing.
Cody Martin theoretically is still on this team. Kind of a 2-guard,
Maybe.
right?
Yeah.
Like
it just, and listen, I realize it's June 22nd. The roster is going to change. I get it. I'm not trying to judge it right now. It's just kind of funny. And then again, we'll see what they do at 10, right? Because like, I don't know if we want to do this and then we can do the Rocket side, but it's like, this has like Jeremiah Fears or Jaeger Dimon written all over it to me.
Oh,
like,
no, not to me. Honestly, that's interesting. Okay.
What did you think?
I thought big.
Okay.
Honestly.
So like that, but do you think they're going to get Common at 10?
It's not impossible, but I would be surprised if he got to 10.
Yeah.
And honestly, if he gets to 10,
that's why
10, my read is like there are teams trying to come up for him at that point if he gets to 10.
So I guess that's why I didn't go big, is because I assumed Common would be off the board. And then I wondered if they would go like Sorber or like, are they Derek Queen?
You go Big 10 pilled, baby. You go Derek Queen.
I mean, if they're going to do, they're just going to take Jace.
Look,
they're going to take Jace at 10 then.
That's very funny. I'm guessing they're going to, this is a guess. Don't report this. Do not aggregate this for the love of God. This is like half joking. I'm guessing, given that Jace was not invited to the green room, that they would try to bump up from 29 to like 22 or wherever to try and get Jace.
So interesting. Yeah. Big made sense. I just didn't know. I didn't think Common would fall there. I just thought point guard, because while there's a bunch of guards on the team for sure, and maybe point guard doesn't make sense. Like as much as Booker is going to play with the ball in his hands and Jalen Green is going to want to play with the ball in his hands, maybe you don't even mess with an actual point guard.
Well, look, like Kasparis here is another name that makes a ton of sense to me. I'm not saying that they can't go point guard. I'm going to have Derek Queen in the mock tomorrow. The live mock at The Athletic goes up tomorrow. Again, if you want all this info, everything I have, it's going to go to The Athletic first and foremost, outside of what I'm going to talk about here tonight. But my read on all of this is that they're going to make some choices. Like they're going to try and bring some guys in late this week and try and figure it all out. Right. There's nobody that they're locked in on, I don't think.
And we will have a predictive live mock on the Game Theory YouTube Tuesday evening night.
I think that's right.
Hopefully, right? That's our plan.
Yeah. I'm trying to decide if I think we should do it tomorrow to give it a little bit more leeway.
Sure.
But we'll see. We'll talk about that. It'll either be tomorrow or Tuesday. I know that. Okay. So the Phoenix side. So should we talk about just like why we're not high on Jalen Green?
Sure.
So the fit is terrible here. Jalen really got a lot of opportunity to play with the ball in his hands in Houston and get a chance to like really showcase over the last 4 years what he might be capable of. And there are undeniably flashes, right?
Yep.
There are undeniably moments where he will look quite good. In game 2 of the NBA playoffs, he went for 38 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists, shot 13 of 25. Here's the other problem. Game 1, 7 points. Game 2, 9 points. Game 3, 9 points. Game 4, 8 points. Game 5, 11 points. Game 6, 12 points. Game 7, 8 points. Was truly a catastrophe in that series. And it's not surprising. He doesn't make quick decisions. He doesn't finish well around the rim. I think the people that like Jalen Green think of him as this guy who's like a super athlete who finishes around the rim at a super high level. It just has never borne itself out in the numbers. He makes these spectacular finishes that make you want to buy into the potential. But the real issue here, like the finishing at the rim is almost like a microcosm of his game as a whole to me. The flashes make you want to buy in, but the game by game consistency is just wholly lacking, is the reality. he took strides this year defensively. I do want to give him credit for that. He is a player that can create, like he can get to his shot, but he's not a good enough shooter to like be able to actualize it in any way, shape, or form and like make it useful. I mean, look, true shooting percentage compared to league average over his 4 years in the NBA. His rookie year is actually the best year. It was only 3% below league average that year. Second year, 7% below league average. Third year, 7% below league average. This year, 6% below league average. I don't think he's a good enough shooter at the end of the day to live off of the shot diet that he has to.
Yeah, I mean, and this will be really interesting because with the way the Rockets roster was constructed, I feel like he kind of played as the number one option. And I guess that made sense. And I would understand why he would think that and why they would play him. When he goes to Phoenix, there's no doubt who the number one option is. And it's not Jalen Green. And so I am interested now to see playing off of Devin Booker, what that looks like. And can he find his rhythm? Can he find his flow? Can he maybe find easier shot attempts? And again, this is why I don't love this fit, because whenever I think of Devin Booker, my first thought isn't like, hey, create great looks for other people. I'm not saying he's an awful passer. I'm just saying, like, I don't think like primary creator in that way. I think Booker of like, hey, he's going to go, he can create his own look. So I'm interested to see how those two play off of each other. And along with Jalen Green now being like, you are definitely the number two option. There's no doubt about it, night in and night out. And I don't know, maybe that fits. Maybe he does figure it out and find some efficiency with his shot diet in that way. But I'm a little bit concerned that this is the best fit for him to be successful.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, no easy shots here for Jalen Green. Like it's, unless they get a point guard, right? Maybe they will take a point guard at some point or find one, whatever. But like nobody's generating easy looks for him here. It's basically going to be the same, I think. Yep. So I don't like the fit. I don't love this type of player in general. There is real athletic upside if you can tap into it, and he's going to have to become, I think, basically like an elite mid-range shooter and 3-point shooter to be, because here's the route, right? The route is Zach LaVine,
sure,
right?
Yeah.
Like,
yep.
That's the player that he can theoretically turn into. Let's go with, but I would just tell you, Zach LaVine, 1% above league average in terms of true shooting percentage. His second year, 4% above league average. His third year, had the bad year with the injury in Chicago in his fourth year, coming back from the injury, but 3% above league average, 1% above league average, 11% above league average by the time he was in his seventh year. How Zach made the leap was he became like a truly like elite shooter.
Yeah.
That's where it's going to have to come for Jalen Green. And it's a very narrow pathway that worries me. If it doesn't happen, he's probably not all that valuable of player, and he's making $33 million already.
And like all of that was Zach LaVine, and there's people who question him on a winning basketball in a winning scenario and his contribution to winning at the highest level. I know you and I are a little higher on LaVine, and I think, a lot of his discourse comes from the contract, but even with the contract, I think there's still people that question that. I was looking at Booker's numbers. Like, maybe I'm just not giving him enough credit for his ability to create for teammates. Like the last couple of years, he's averaged a ton of assists. And so maybe he will do a decent job if he has to, being obviously the focal point now with KD gone, and maybe he will do some setting up for Green to get him some easy looks.
Devin can really pass, but when he focuses on that, I don't think that you get the best out of him.
Sure.
And I almost think that, like, if you're Phoenix, your entire pathway to success now is to get the best out of Devin Booker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see how that develops over the course of the next, year. Realistically, look, they can't be done with this roster. We know that.
Yeah.
Dylan Brooks is a player that I think is actually useful for them.
Sure.
By the way,
I mean, I didn't mean to just like throw away what his value was because again, like he's a real NBA rotation player, right? Like there's no questioning that. Like that's 100%.
He's like honestly like a starting caliber
a
player.
Starter. Yeah, a starter, not even rotation, a starter level NBA basketball player. And so that's not a nothing in this trade. It just was like, okay, that's nice. What are kind of my upside options? Like, what are the things for me to get excited about in this trade? And those, depending on who they take at 10, what is maybe as exciting as what people would want. But yeah, I don't want to discount Dylan Brooks as being a part of this as well.
Yeah, agree. Okay. Now from the Houston side. I mean, this is a home run to me.
Sure.
Like, I don't think Houston could have done better for a deal this year. I think losing Dylan Brooks is not ideal, honestly. But here is kind of the thing, right? When you get Kevin Durant, the move now was probably to bring Dylan Brooks off of the bench anyway, which might not have been the best strategy as it was, right? Because like I don't know how enthused he would be after starting for many years in the NBA, including his first 2 years on this roster. But like I would have guessed that they probably will start. Like even if Dylan was there, it's probably Fred, Amen, Kevin Durant. Like maybe you start Dylan instead of Jabari Smith. And then Şengün. Like I'll hear it all out. Like I'll hear out like a number of different things, right? But Dylan Brooks's minutes were going to get cut as it was with Kevin Durant for sure. On top of the fact that you have Jabari Smith entering, an enormous year, right?
Yeah.
Contract year potentially if they don't extend him. Tari Eason is a player entering a contract year if they don't extend him. We'll see if they do. I'm interested in that as well. But man, I think this is now a team that is difficult to deal with because you've got Amen probably taking a third year leap. You've got a very steady hand at the lead guard position in Fred. Say whatever you want about the shooting. The shooting was not great this year, but a lot of the shooting was because he was relied upon to take really tough shots a lot of the time. Like that's to me a reality. Now you've Kevin Durant to take those bailout shots. Kevin Durant's really good at bailout shots. Maybe the best player in the league at bailout shots. I think the Fred's efficiency probably improves. They didn't give up Reed. They didn't give up Jabari Smith. They didn't give up Tari. They have all this lineup flexibility here moving forward. They've already re-signed Steven Adams to a $13 million a year deal, which is a great contract for Steven Adams.
Descending too, which we've talked about the descending contract with Steven Adams. It doesn't matter that it's descending because he's going to be 35 when it's over. So you're not going to have to extend off of a super low number. That thing's below the non-tax MLE by a few million over the next couple of years.
Yeah. I think this team's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say it.
So
I think this would be my guess for the team. If Kevin Durant plays 65 games, this would be my guess for the team that finishes second in the West next year in the regular season. We'll see in the playoffs, but in the regular season, I would guess they finish second in the West again.
Yeah. I think as rosters sit right now, until we see what some other teams do, I think I'm with you, right? Like there's still other moves that are going to be made. The way I look at it is you went from Jalen Green as your primary scoring option to Kevin Durant. And I think games played is an important factor here. Jalen Green has been very available in his career, which I think is something that is worth noting. And Durant played 62 last year, 75 the year before, 47. And the fact of the matter is just more than anything with Durant, he's older, right? He's in his upper 30s. But you up if healthy, you upgraded your number one scoring option. You did it by using two assets, right? Dylan Brooks, which for me, you just outlined it. You're the Houston Rockets. You have Jabari Smith Jr., Tari Eason. We didn't even mention Cam Whitmore and whether he's still in the plans there or not. Like, that's a guy that's at least talented, if nothing else. And the number 10.
This deal opens up more minutes for Whitmore, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is more minutes for all of those guys.
Yeah, like Kevin Durant, probably going to play 30 minutes a night. You're trading, 60 to 65 minutes a night.
Yeah. So that's why you traded two guys, Green and Brooks, for one in Durant, but you have the depth that it doesn't matter as long as you believe in these guys, which I assume they do to some extent. And then, so now it's like the number 10 pick. That's not nothing. That's valuable. But you have all of these guys on rookie deals that you have to pay. And is it the worst case in the world that you're taking 1 year off from bringing in a rookie? And so I'm with you. I don't think it crushed long-term flexibility. It opens the window next year. We talk about windows all the time, right? Like, would you agree that next year this is a team we will consider a title contender?
Yeah, I think so. They're maybe not like top tier, but on the next level, yeah.
Sure. So I think this opens the window where if healthy Kevin Durant and especially a leap from Amin Thompson, like, this team could be sick. And so you open the window without jeopardizing your future. It's hard to argue that for Houston.
They're still shorting Phoenix somehow.
Yeah.
They get Kevin Durant and they still get to short Phoenix.
Like,
because they still have two of their picks.
What I'm interested in is the contract extension. I'm interested to see what that looks like. What kind of money do they give Fred? What kind of money do they potentially give KD? Like, I'm interested to see how that all plays out. I don't know how much those decisions could change my mind here, but as we sit with the information right now, I love it for Houston.
Here's the other thing I want to say here too. Kevin Durant is still fucking elite. Like, I'm not sure people recognize enough how monstrous he was for the first half of the season this year. He was incredible. Here's the other thing, by the way, that this does. This takes a lot of pressure off of Kevin Durant defensively.
Sure.
He actually had a lot of defensive load on his shoulders in Phoenix.
It's because he was their best player on the defensive end, Sam.
Correct. He had to really be locked in and engaged every night for them to have a chance to stop anybody. Man, I'm not saying he doesn't look, Ime Udoka is absolutely going to be somebody who demands engagement all the time. I'm not sitting here saying Kevin Durant's is going to disengage defensively. You know what I mean? But the pressure is way off of him, in my opinion now.
I mean, he's the fourth best defender on the team, roughly third. Amin and Tari.
Yeah, Amin, Tari. I mean, honestly, I still think Fred is quite good on defense.
Fred's good at what he does. You got Adams off the bench. I mean, we both think Şengün has made real strides in terms of he's not some anchor of your defense type. But I mean, it's just, to your point here, he can play the role that I think that Durant is best in. It was let him play off the ball and use his length and come rotate and block shots and grab defensive rebounds and grab and go and start offense and just be that, not be your. He was the anchor of the Phoenix Suns defense. As crazy as it sounds, I looked it up. I had him 7th on my All NBA rankings through the first 25 games. We did it. Yeah. We did every 25 or whatever. How many ever games? It wouldn't be 25, 20, whatever. The first quarter of the season, he was 7th. That's the level he was playing at early in the year. And I think he probably would have been there at the halfway point, but he probably wasn't on track to hit the games at that.
Kevin Durant, 27, 6, and 4 last year, shooting 53, 43, 84.
Sounds good.
He is an unbelievable shooter. Like, people can be like, oh, he doesn't get to the rim as much anymore. I don't disagree with that take. It's like important to some extent, I guess. Like, but not really when you're as good as he is as a shooter, right? Like, when you're as lethal as KD is, it's way more important that you continue to knock down shots at the ridiculous level that you're continuing to knock down shots. And oh, by the way, he might have more energy to be able to knock down those shots throughout the course of a season because he doesn't have to wear as much load on his shoulders defensively. KD is still really good, guys. Like, this is he if he plays 65 games, he's going to make an all NBA team next year, I think.
Yeah.
And then you're also getting internal improvement from Tari, Jabari. I'm guessing Reed Shepherd is going to be better next year. I would expect Reed Shepherd to be better next year. They are really excited about him in Houston. Like, I can just tell you that. They still have a lot of faith in him. I really think this is a home run for Houston.
Sam,
Like, this is if he stays healthy, it's a home run. Like, if you want to complain about the injuries, God love you. Like, I have no argument against that. You know, he played 62 games this year, 47 and 23, 55 and 22, 35 and 21. And that's, 2020 was the year he missed with the Achilles. I think absolutely you should expect Kevin Durant to miss right around 20 games at this point. And I don't think Houston's going into this thinking otherwise, but basically they got rid of the guy that I liked least in their rotation and got a real number one option. That's pretty good.
Well, that's what I was going to say. So last year, Jalen Green led the Rockets in points per game in the regular season at 21. Durant for his career is at 27 and was just under that last season. Maybe more importantly for Rockets fans now, Şengün was their leading scorer in the playoffs at 20.9. Durant averages almost 30 points per game in his playoff career. Like, this is just such a massive upgrade for a team who is looking to take the next step. And we talked about, I believe, on their offseason preview that they were ready to do that. And we were okay if they did. We were okay if they didn't make some sort of swing. We just didn't want to jeopardize the long-term window. And I don't think this trade jeopardized the long-term window that they have with Amin Thompson, Reed, all of the young guys that we rave about all the time. They didn't move any of them, Sam. None of them. They moved Jalen Green, who they upgraded at least for a year. We'll see, maybe 2, maybe 3. And a rotation player that opens up minutes for those young guys we rave about all the time. Like, if you're a Rockets fan and you're upset because they moved Dylan Brooks or something, it's like, then did you really like Tyrese, Jabari Smith Jr., those guys that much? Because you're going to get more of those guys now. Like, Tari is no longer blocked from minutes. So I think it's a great move. Again, I will hold a little bit depending on what a potential contract extension, whatever, could look like if we get those numbers or that ends up happening.
From KDC, Thunder got rid of Giddey. They win the title. Rockets, while not at that level, they're shedding the weak position. I do think that there's a huge thing that people often don't recognize where losing I don't want to go as far as say like Jalen Green was like negative this year, but losing the weakest link in some ways is often like a value add in and of itself on top of getting everything that you got with Kevin Durant. It's a totally different beast.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's an interesting comparison. Obviously, like a little bit different levels, right? Like Giddey was kind of like the 5th starter for OKC and got just traded for a better 5th starter / 6th man. And this where you're trading your number one option for one of the best number one options in the history of the league in terms of scoring the basketball. So it's different roles, but it is an interesting parallel, interesting idea. So we'll see how it plays out for him.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, Jalen Green, in terms of his EPM this year, was a 0 player. Neither positive nor negative. In terms of like the actual performance, was negative through his first 3 years. There was like genuine improvement. I do want to say that. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to just like crush. Like he got better at basketball. It's just that, like to me, even if it's not KD, even if they don't extend KD, which I would assume they're going to extend KD, but like even if they don't extend KD and you get 1 year of KD and you get off of the Jalen Green deal, this is a win to me.
Sure.
So yeah. Okay. I think that's where we're at on the KD thing. I mean, do you have anything else that you want to talk about here before we get out?
I think so.
I think we're in a pretty good position. We will have content over the next couple of days leading into the draft. On Wednesday, we will have Bryce and I going live on the YouTube channel during the draft. We'll probably go half an hour before the draft, right? Maybe longer if like a flurry of trades happen, but my guess is probably just, right around half an hour before the draft. We will also go live on Thursday for the second round. Go to The Athletic. I will have a live updating mock draft. We will definitely have a mock draft up on the site or up on the YouTube channel at some point here, either Monday or Tuesday. We will also have off-season previews for the final 2 teams that were available in the Indiana Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Those are the final 2 that we have, and then we will have gone through 30. And I'm very excited to have completed that project as of tomorrow. So, Bryce, tell the people where they can find your work. Tell the people what's going on.
Yeah, at Motor City Hoops on Twitter, on Blue Sky, Motor City Hoops Substack. If you have a team that is in the late first, early second round, mid second round, I have a bunch of NBA draft video breakdowns over there. I also have some breakdowns on some potential free agents and trade targets. Again, it's a little bit Pistons focused, but you'd still get the same idea. So if your team is in the PJ Washington interest, or I think Santi Aldama is coming later in the week, I have a bunch of those over on the Substack. Went over 1,000 subscribers, so thank you all for that. It's completely free. The Pistons Pulse podcast will be doing a fun mock draft tomorrow. So we already picked 1 through 25, and then we're starting live at 26 through 40. So again, if you have a fan of a team in that range, that might be an episode for you. Otherwise, Game Theory podcast here with the Sam Vecenie on our way to 50,000 before draft night.
We are under 1,000 subscribers away from 50,000. Please go hit the subscribe button for the love of God. Get us to that 50,000 before the NBA draft on Wednesday. Bryce, I mean, we're closing in, man. It's the off season. We're in an exciting part of the year. I couldn't be more pumped about this. Could not be more excited to kind of dig in and talk through all of these things. It's great. Like this is super awesome, and I couldn't be more excited. But most importantly, do you know what this was? This is a win for today.
What's that?
It was a win for Pokuism, baby.
Oh, I saw your tweet. You had that one ready to go.
Folks, the guiding principle of this show for its existence, really since 2020, since he was drafted, is that there is somewhere between a 0 and 100% chance that Alexei Pokusevski is a good basketball player. Thunder don't get here without Poku, baby. They don't get here without Alexei. You can either say via the tank or via whatever you want to say. But my goodness, man. Shout out Alexei Pokusevski, our leading light of Pokuism, the guiding principle of this podcast for a long, long time. Go to The Athletic. Keep me employed over there. Mock draft coming tomorrow. We've got a bunch of stuff going up. That's where we're at. Until next time, we'll talk soon.